It was a morning that looked like every other morning. But before the day ended, it would change many lives forever. The sun was just rising over the tall buildings in the city. Soft orange light touched the windows of Carter Industries, a large company known for its success and strict rules. Inside the office, workers slowly arrived. Some carried coffee cups, some checked their phones, some greeted each other with tired smiles. Everything felt normal, calm, ordinary. Daniel walked through the glass doors at exactly 8:15 a.m., just like he did every day. He wore a clean blue shirt and carried a black folder close to his chest. Inside that folder was a report he had worked on all night. He barely slept, but he felt proud. This report was important, and he believed it could help the company save money. Daniel was not the kind of man who talked too much. He did his job quietly. He helped others when they needed support, and he never complained. Many people in the office respected him, but they also knew something else. The boss did not treat him the same way he treated others. Mr. Carter, the owner of the company, was already inside his glass office. He stood near the window looking down at the busy street. He was known for his expensive suits and cold personality. When he walked through the office, people became silent. They feared his sharp voice and quick temper. He demanded perfection, and he did not forgive mistakes easily. What most employees did not know was that this morning was different for another reason. Mr. Carter's teenage daughter, Emily, was visiting the office for the first time. She was 17 years old, smart, curious, and full of questions about the world. She wanted to understand her father's business. She wanted to see how he led such a large company. Emily stood near the entrance, holding a small notebook. Her long hair rested gently on her shoulders. Her eyes moved around the office with excitement. She smiled at the workers politely. Some smiled back, surprised to see her there. Mr. Carter walked out of his office and placed a firm hand on her shoulder. He told her to watch carefully and learn how real business worked. His voice sounded confident and proud. Emily nodded. She admired her father. She believed he was strong and successful. She believed he was fair. At that moment, Daniel was at his desk reviewing the last page of his report. He took a deep breath, then walked toward Mr. Carter's office. His heart beat a little faster. He hoped the boss would appreciate his effort. He hoped this would finally prove his value. Before Daniel could knock, Mr. Carter stepped out and called his name loudly. The sound echoed across the office. Heads turned. Keyboards stopped clicking. The room became very quiet. Daniel walked forward calmly and handed the folder to his boss. Mr. Carter opened it quickly, flipping through the pages without much care. His face began to change. His eyebrows lowered. His jaw tightened. Emily watched carefully from a few steps away. She noticed her father's expression change. She felt a small tension in the air. Suddenly, Mr. Carter closed the folder hard and looked directly at Daniel. His voice became louder than necessary. He began to question the numbers in the report. He did not ask calmly, he accused. He spoke with sharp words. His tone was not only about the work, it felt personal. The workers around them avoided eye contact. Some looked at the floor. Some stared at their screens. But everyone was listening. The silence in the room became heavy. Daniel stood still, his hands by his side. He tried to explain politely. He said he double-checked the numbers. He said he stayed late to make sure everything was correct. His voice was respectful and steady. But Mr. Carter did not lower his voice. Instead, he stepped closer. His words became more humiliating. He questioned Daniel's abilities in front of everyone. He suggested that maybe the job was too difficult for him. Emily's smile slowly disappeared. She looked at Daniel's face. She saw no anger there, only quiet strength. She saw a man trying to stay calm while being embarrassed in front of his coworkers. She then looked at her father, and something inside her shifted. This was not the calm and wise man she knew at home. This was someone else, someone harsher, someone colder. The morning that had started with sunlight and routine now felt dark and tense. No one knew what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Emily was watching every word, every expression, every reaction. And what she saw in that moment would stay with her forever. The office was still silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the air conditioner above them. Mr. Carter held Daniel's report in his hand. For a moment, he just stared at it. Then suddenly, he threw it on the floor. Papers scattered everywhere. Some pages slid across the shiny floor. Others landed near the desks of silent employees. "This is what you call professional work?" Mr. Carter said loudly. His voice was sharp, cut through the quiet room like a knife. Daniel looked down at the papers but did not bend to pick them up yet. He kept his head straight. His face was calm, but his fingers slowly tightened into fists. "I worked very hard on that report, sir," Daniel said gently. "Hard work?" Mr. Carter laughed coldly. "If this is your hard work, then maybe you are in the wrong position." Some workers shifted in their chairs. A few looked uncomfortable. They knew Daniel was one of the most careful employees in the company. He rarely made mistakes, but no one dared to speak. Emily stood near the glass wall, frozen in place. She had never seen her father act like this in front of others. At home, he spoke about leadership and respect. He told her that a true leader guides people, not breaks them. But this felt different. Mr. Carter stepped closer to Daniel. "You people always want praise," he continued. "But when it is time to deliver results, you fail." The words hung in the air. "You people." Emily's heart skipped. She did not fully understand why that phrase felt wrong, but she knew it carried something ugly inside it. Daniel swallowed quietly. He knew what those words meant. He had heard similar words before in his life. In school, in previous jobs, on the street. He had learned to stay calm. "I double-checked the numbers, sir," Daniel replied carefully. "If there is an error, I will fix it immediately." But Mr. Carter was not listening. Instead of checking the report properly, he continued speaking loudly so everyone could hear. "Maybe this job is too complex for you. Maybe you should stick to simpler tasks." The room felt smaller now. The air felt heavier. Daniel slowly bent down and started picking up the scattered pages. Each movement was slow and controlled. He did not rush. He did not show anger. That calmness made the situation even more painful. One of the younger employees, Mark, wanted to say something. He had worked closely with Daniel and knew the report was accurate. But fear held him back. He looked at his computer screen and stayed silent. Emily watched Daniel carefully. She noticed the way he handled the papers gently, as if they were something precious. She noticed the small shake in his hands, even though his face remained strong. She also noticed something else. Her father looked proud. He seemed powerful standing there while everyone watched. But instead of feeling impressed, Emily felt uncomfortable. When Daniel stood up again, holding the papers neatly together, Mr. Carter shook his head. "I expect better. I do not tolerate incompetence in my company." Daniel nodded once. "Yes, sir." That was all he said. No excuses, no anger, no shouting, just quiet dignity. Mr. Carter turned away and walked back toward his office. The glass door closed behind him with a soft but clear sound. The tension remained in the room for a few seconds. Then slowly, people returned to their work. The typing sounds began again. Phones started ringing. The office looked normal once more, but it did not feel normal. Daniel returned to his desk. He placed the report carefully on the table. For a brief moment, he closed his eyes. He took a slow breath. He felt embarrassed. He felt hurt. But he also felt something stronger, responsibility. He needed this job. His mother's hospital bills were increasing every month. The treatment was expensive. He could not risk losing this position. So he opened the report again and started checking the numbers one more time, even though he was sure they were correct. Across the room, Emily could not focus. Her mind kept replaying the scene. The loud voice, the thrown papers, the phrase, "you people." She walked slowly to one of the assistants and asked quietly, "Is he always like that?" The assistant hesitated. Then she answered softly, "Not with everyone." That answer said more than a full explanation. Emily looked at Daniel again. He was already working, as if nothing had happened. No anger, no complaints. She felt a strange mix of sadness and confusion. For the first time in her life, she was not sure she liked what she saw in her father. And deep inside her heart, a small question began to grow. If power is used to hurt others, is it really strength? That question would not leave her mind for the rest of the day. The rest of the morning moved slowly, but for Emily, Everything felt different now. She tried to sit beside her father inside his glass office, pretending to read business notes. But her mind was not there. Her thoughts were still outside in the open office space, where Daniel sat quietly at his desk. Through the clear glass wall, she could see him. He was focused on his computer screen, checking numbers carefully, writing something down, correcting small details. He looked serious, but not angry. That confused her. If someone had spoken to her like that in front of many people, she would have cried or shouted or walked away. But Daniel did none of those things. He simply continued working. Emily glanced at her father. He was on the phone now, speaking confidently about profits and future plans. His voice was calm again, almost charming, as if nothing had happened earlier. How could he switch so easily? She wondered. At home, her father always spoke about fairness. He told her that everyone deserves respect. He often said that success means lifting others up, not pushing them down. But today, she had seen something else. She had seen him raise his voice at one person, in a way he never would with others. She had heard the tone change. She had felt the difference. The phrase, "you people," echoed in her mind again. She slowly stood up and stepped outside the office, telling her father she wanted to observe the team more closely. He nodded without looking up from his phone call. Emily walked slowly through the rows of desks. Some workers smiled politely at her. Others looked nervous. She could feel a strange tension in the air, like something invisible had happened and everyone knew it. She stopped near Daniel's desk. He looked up and gave her a small, respectful smile. "Good morning," he said kindly. His voice surprised her. It was warm, gentle, not bitter. "Good morning," she replied softly. "I'm Emily." "I know," he said, still polite. "It's nice to have you here." There was no anger in his eyes, no blame, no coldness. Emily hesitated for a moment, then asked carefully, "Are you okay?" Daniel paused for just a second, then smiled again. "I'm fine, thank you." But she noticed something small. His smile did not fully reach his eyes. She stood there awkwardly, not sure what to say next. Then she noticed a small photo frame on his desk. It showed an older woman sitting in a wheelchair, smiling warmly at the camera. "Is that your mother?" Emily asked gently. Daniel's expression softened. "Yes, she's very strong," he said proudly. "She looks kind," Emily said. "She is," Daniel replied. "She always taught me to stay calm, even when things are hard." Emily felt something tighten in her chest. She wanted to ask more questions, but she did not want to make him uncomfortable. So she simply nodded and said, "I hope you have a good day." "You too," Daniel answered warmly. As she walked away, she felt different inside. Daniel did not look weak. He did not look small. He looked patient, strong in a quiet way. She began to understand something important. Strength does not always shout. Sometimes strength stays silent. Later, during lunch break, Emily sat alone in the small company cafe area. She watched employees talking quietly. She noticed that Daniel sat by himself near the window, eating a simple sandwich, reading something on his phone. No one sat beside him, not because they disliked him, but because they were afraid of being noticed, afraid of standing too close to the wrong person. That thought made Emily uncomfortable. She remembered how proud she used to feel about her father's power. She thought power meant respect, but now she was not sure. Maybe fear is not the same as respect. As she sat there thinking, she realized something else. If she had not been present today, she would never have known how her father treated Daniel. How many other days had this happened? She wondered. How many times had someone been humiliated quietly, without anyone important watching? Her heart felt heavy. She loved her father. She always admired him. But now she saw a side of him she did not expect. And once you see something clearly, you cannot unsee it. That afternoon, Emily made a silent promise to herself. She would not ignore what she saw. She would not pretend everything was normal, because sometimes change does not begin with anger. Sometimes change begins the moment someone truly opens their eyes. And Emily's eyes were now fully open. The afternoon sun shone through the office windows, but the light did not make Emily feel warm inside. Her mind was full of questions. She could not stop thinking about Daniel's calm face, his gentle voice, and the way he stood quietly while her father spoke harshly to him. There had to be more to his silence, she felt it. During a short break, Emily walked toward the printing area, where two employees were quietly talking. When they saw her, they quickly stopped. "You can continue," she said softly, trying to smile. They looked at each other, unsure. "I just wanted to ask something," Emily added carefully. "Has Daniel worked here long?" One of them, a woman named Sarah, nodded. 5 years, she answered. "He's one of the most reliable people here." "Reliable?" Emily repeated. "Yes," Sarah said, lowering her voice slightly. "He stays late almost every day. He fixes mistakes that are not even his. He never complains." Emily felt her heart beat a little faster. "If he's so reliable, why does my father treat him like that?" she asked before she could stop herself. The two employees exchanged another look, this time more serious. Sarah sighed quietly. "Your father has high standards," she said carefully, choosing her words, but her eyes told a different story. Emily noticed the hesitation, the fear behind the polite answer. She thanked them and walked away slowly, her thoughts growing heavier. Later that afternoon, something unexpected happened. Daniel received a phone call. Emily happened to be walking past when she heard his voice change. "Yes, doctor?" Daniel said softly, stepping into a quieter corner. "I understand." His voice sounded worried now. Emily did not mean to listen, but she could not ignore the pain in his tone. "I will arrange the payment," Daniel continued quietly. "Please just continue the treatment." There was a short pause. "Thank you," he said gently, then ended the call. When he turned around, he almost bumped into Emily. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, feeling embarrassed. "It's okay," Daniel replied, forcing a small smile. But this time she could clearly see the worry in his eyes. "Is everything all right?" she asked softly. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. "Just family matters," he said. Emily remembered the photo of his mother on the desk. "She's not well, is she?" Emily asked carefully. Daniel looked surprised for a moment. Then his shoulders relaxed slightly. "She's been sick for a while," he admitted. "The treatment is expensive, but she is strong." He tried to smile again, but this time it was harder. "I need this job," he added quietly, almost as if speaking to himself. The words were simple, but they carried so much weight. Emily felt something shift inside her chest. Now she understood. Daniel's silence in the morning was not weakness. It was sacrifice. He stayed calm because he could not afford to lose control. He stayed respectful because he could not risk losing his position. His dignity was stronger than his pride. As the day continued, Emily watched him differently. She saw how he helped a younger employee fix a mistake without blaming him. She saw how he answered emails quickly and professionally. She saw how he never once spoke badly about her father, even after what had happened. The more she observed, the more uncomfortable she felt. Her father had called him incompetent, but nothing about Daniel looked incompetent. If anything, he looked responsible, patient, disciplined. That evening, when most employees were leaving, Daniel was still at his desk, checking numbers again, making sure everything was perfect. Emily stood near the exit and watched quietly. The office lights were dim now, shadows stretching across the room. Daniel looked tired, but determined. She suddenly realized something important. Her father believed he was strong because he had power, but Daniel was strong without power, and that kind of strength felt deeper. As Emily walked toward her father's office to leave for the day, she felt her heart heavy with truth. The truth that silence can hide pain. The truth that calm can hide struggle. The truth that sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who says the least. And now that she knew Daniel's truth, the morning scene no longer looked like simple workplace discipline. It looked unfair. It looked cruel. And it looked personal. For the first time in her life, Emily began to question not just what her father had done, but who he had become. That evening, the house felt too quiet. The Carter home was large and beautiful, with bright lights and clean white walls. But to Emily, it felt heavy, like the air inside was full of unspoken words. Her father sat at the long dining table, reading something on his tablet, his face calm, confident, the same strong businessman everyone respected. But Emily did not see him the same way anymore. She sat across from him, pushing her food around the plate, her mind replaying the morning again and again. The loud voice, the scattered papers, the silent office, Daniel's calm face. "Why are you so quiet tonight?" her father asked without looking up. Emily took a slow breath, her heart beating faster. "Dad," she said carefully, "can I ask you something?" Mr. Carter looked up now, slightly surprised by her serious tone. "Of course," he replied. She hesitated for a second, then asked the question that had been sitting in her chest all day. "Why did you speak to Daniel like that?" The room became still. Her father leaned back in his chair, clearly not expecting that question. "I was doing my job," he said calmly. "A company cannot succeed without discipline." "But was that discipline?" Emily asked softly. "Or was it something else?" Mr. Carter's expression changed slightly. "What do you mean?" "You embarrassed him in front of everyone," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "You did not even check the report properly." He frowned. "Emily, you are young. You do not understand how business works." "Maybe I don't," she replied, "but I understand how people feel." That sentence made him pause. Emily continued, her words coming faster now. "He works hard, he stays late, and he needs that job. I heard him talking to a doctor today. His mother is sick." Her father's face tightened slightly. "That is not my responsibility," he said firmly. "Maybe not," Emily answered, "but the way you treat him is your responsibility." The silence between them grew heavy. Mr. Carter stood up from his chair and walked toward the window, looking outside at the dark city lights. "You saw one moment," he said quietly. "You do not see the pressure I carry every day." Emily stood up too, her hands slightly shaking. "And you do not see the pressure he carries." Her voice was not loud, but it was strong. "You always tell me that character is more important than money," she continued. "You tell me that success means being better than the world expects." He did not respond immediately. "Is this what better looks like?" she asked gently. Those words hit deeper than shouting ever could. For the first time that day, Mr. Carter did not look powerful. He looked unsure. Emily's eyes were not angry. They were disappointed, and that hurt more than any argument. "I used to feel proud when people said you were strong," she said quietly. "But today, I did not feel proud." The room felt smaller now. Mr. Carter slowly turned around, looking at his daughter differently, as if seeing her grow up in front of him. "I was teaching him a lesson," he said, but his voice was softer now. "Or were you proving something?" Emily asked gently. He had no quick answer this time. She stepped closer, her eyes shining slightly with emotion. "When you said, 'You people,' what did you mean?" The question hung in the air. Mr. Carter opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out immediately, because deep down he knew what he had meant, and now, hearing it spoken aloud, it did not sound right. Emily watched his silence carefully. She was not attacking him. She was asking him to see himself. After a long pause, she said softly, "I saw fear in the office today, Dad, but not respect." That sentence stayed in the room like a mirror. Mr. Carter slowly sat back down. His confident posture slightly weakened. For the first time, he replayed the morning from someone else's eyes. Not as a boss, not as a powerful man, but as a father being watched by his daughter. And what he saw in that reflection made him uncomfortable. Emily took a slow breath and picked up her bag. "I love you," she said gently. "But I hope tomorrow I see the man you always tell me to become." She walked upstairs quietly, leaving her father alone at the dining table. Mr. Carter sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. The city lights outside continued to shine, but inside his mind, something had started to shift, because sometimes The hardest confrontation is not with an employee, not with a competitor, but with your own reflection. That night, the house was quiet, but Mr. Carter could not sleep. He lay in his large, comfortable bed, staring at the ceiling, Emily's words repeating in his mind again and again. I did not feel proud. That sentence stayed with him. He had faced angry clients, strong competitors, and difficult markets without fear. But his daughter's calm disappointment felt heavier than all of that. He turned to one side, then to the other, but his mind would not rest. Slowly, the morning scene replayed in his head. He saw himself standing tall in the office. He heard his own voice, sharp and loud. He saw the papers falling to the floor. But this time, he did not see it from his position. He saw it from Emily's eyes. He imagined her standing there, watching her father raise his voice, watching him use words that carried more than simple criticism. He remembered the phrase he had used, "You people." At that moment in the morning, it had slipped out naturally, without thought. Now, in the silence of the night, it did not feel natural, felt ugly. He closed his eyes tightly, but the memory did not disappear. Instead, another memory appeared. He remembered his own father years ago, a strict man who believed that showing emotion was weakness. He remembered standing in front of him as a young boy, being criticized loudly for small mistakes. He remembered the embarrassment, the silence, the feeling of being small. He had promised himself back then that he would become powerful one day, powerful enough that no one could make him feel that way again. And he had succeeded. He built a company, he earned respect, he gained control. But now, lying awake in the dark, a difficult question slowly formed in his mind. Had he become the very thing he once feared? The thought made his chest tighten. He sat up in bed and looked at the clock. It was 2:17 in the morning. Sleep was impossible now. He walked downstairs quietly and poured himself a glass of water. The house felt different tonight, not peaceful, but heavy. He sat at the dining table where Emily had stood earlier. He imagined Daniel in that moment again, bending down to pick up the scattered papers, not shouting, not defending himself loudly, just quietly gathering his work. Why had that calmness bothered him so much? Maybe because it showed strength without power. Maybe because it exposed something inside him he did not want to see. For years, he had believed leadership meant control, authority, and high standards, but he had never asked himself how his words felt to others. He had measured success by profit and growth. He had never measured it by dignity. As the night grew deeper, Mr. Carter realized something uncomfortable. Daniel had shown more control in that moment than he had. Daniel had faced humiliation without anger, while he, the powerful boss, had allowed emotion to control his behavior. That realization did not feel good. Felt humbling. Around 4 a.m., Mr. Carter finally stood up and walked to his home office. He opened his laptop and searched for Daniel's employee file. 5 years of service, strong performance reviews, positive feedback from coworkers. There was no sign of incompetence, only dedication. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his forehead. Why had he targeted Daniel so harshly? He knew the answer, even if he did not want to say it aloud. Bias is quiet. It hides behind excuses, pretends to be standards. But in the silence of that early morning, the truth was clear. He had judged differently, and now his daughter had seen it. As the first light of sunrise slowly appeared through the window, Mr. Carter felt something he had not felt in years. Doubt, not about his business skills, but about his character. He stood up and looked at his reflection in the glass window. For the first time in a long time, he did not see just a successful businessman. He saw a father being watched. He saw a leader being questioned. And he saw a man who had a choice. He could ignore the discomfort and continue as always, or he could admit he was wrong. The second option felt harder, but it also felt right. As the sun rose fully over the city, Mr. Carter made a quiet decision. Today would not be like yesterday, because sometimes the longest night is the one that forces a man to face himself.